Okay, so today's what? I think this is recording. Okay, I got some kind of glass here. Glasses. Okay, so it's recording. So it's May 15th of 2026. We're just going to do a little video on the fly here. Let's can pork, peas, which are still in the fridge, which were organic dried peas that I soaked and cooked up a little bit, right? So I'll bring that out soon. And parsnips. So it's pork, peas, and parsnip. Okay, and the reason we're doing that is because I had bought a ham. And what happened to those little knives that were in here? I'm not here now, Andre. Here we go. What? Never mind, found it. I bought a ham a while back. It ended up, most of it, well, not most of it, but some of it ended up in the freezer. So, I needed the freezer space. So it wasn't that flavorful, right? And it had already been cooked. Anyway, I cooked it up. I cooked it up like I'm in a pot with water. And it had bones. So that's good. So that's what we're using. The broth came out not too bad. It just needs a bit of salt because I guess when it cooked in the oven, it leached out a whole lot of its flavor. So about 1-inch size cubes. Okay, so it's been cooked. It's all right. Waste not, want not. Right, Andre had to go get me some jars, but it was worth the investment. Now, eyes are getting worse. What's new, pussycat? You know what I'm saying? What can I do about it, though? I don't know. I don't know. What's happening now, it's like, I don't want to call them auras, but I see between a blue aura and a red aura in terms of, like, you know when you have 3D glasses with that, actually it's not too bad. It tastes pretty good. Like tinted glass, you know, blue and red and that kind of thing, and you're looking through them and you get that blue hue or a red hue. Well, that's what's happening with me these days when I go from room to room, from one light spectrum to another, or I bend down to pick something up and then I stand up and then all of a sudden I get this haze, red haze or blue haze, encompassing everything that is basically, I don't know. This is actually really good. I've been kind of like not wanting to do it because, you know, it's getting hard, eh? And plus I'm tired. So we gotta take off some of this fat as best as I can. I can feel it. Can't really see it. But it pretty much boiled off. I have a whole bunch that rendered in the pot when I was stewing it. So I'm gonna probably I'm gonna attempt to fry up some potatoes with it. And if I like it, then I'm gonna take the rest of it. I'll freeze it. And I'll use it another day. So basically what there's a fair amount of meat here, and the broth came in a little gelatized, so that's good, right? Because the more gelatin you get your broth, the richer it is, right? It's just I didn't add no salt, so, but this is still good. So yeah, I'm just getting this ready now, as you can see. Next week I'm going to have to get out in the yard. Andre and Marcaine were working out there a few days ago. Marcaine was trimming all the trees or whatever that needed trimming. Andre mowed the grass, did a little bit of weed whacking. He still has to rake it though. So yeah, you know, try and take off some of this fat, but I can feel the gelatin in this as well, so a little fat is okay. And of course, the colder you store your jars, the less apt the fat will crawl. Okay. So, okay, so what this is this one had skin on it. So I'm keeping the skin. I'm putting the skin. I took off the fat from what I could tell before I put it in the pot. And then I kept the skin in the pot. And I'm going to can the skin right along with this. Right? Because different parts of an animal, whether it's tendons, bones, marrow inside the bone, meat, different types of fats, they all produce different types of nutrients, right? So the skin is good, and because it's already basically been rendered through the stewing process, right? It's good. I'm canning out too in there with this. Alright, get your money's worth, you know what I'm saying? Food is getting so expensive. I got a whole bunch of sockeye salmon for $5 a can. Now that was a good deal through my PC points. Right? You had to spend $10, I think, and you got $4 back. So I stocked up on that because I give that a lot to Amari. More sockeye than I do pink because there's higher nutrients in the sockeye. Plus it tastes better, right? It's a milder fish and it just has a unique taste. So I saved $50 after it was all said and done and got 24 cans. So I can't really see the fat, but I can feel it. So I'll take it off. It's a 90-minute can because I have to do quart size. Oh yeah, I sent Andre to go get some jars. Oh my god, so expensive. $30. I'm glad I did what I did when I did it. So, not that I'm moving in silence here, but I do have that support worker. She's not a social worker. She's a support worker to help me, I don't know, deal with the issue of housing insecurity, if you want to call it that, in light of everything that's been going on. So we don't really know what we're doing. Alright. And I'm going to call her Tiny Tina. Tiny Tina. That's her pet peeve name. I'm not, you know, if I bring up Tiny Tina for whatever reason in the future, that's who that is. Right? She's going to come and see me regularly for at least 6 months. Right? And if need be, it can be carried over. But the way my eyes are going, even just with the way my eyes are going, I don't know, people. Oh, this really is good. It's so good. I'm glad I'm doing this. Yeah. And then after it's done, what will happen when you open the jar, just mix it all up. That's all I'm doing. I should have put that skin separate so I could have distributed it easily between the jars. No, it's a 90-minute can for a liter. I don't like 90 minutes because that's an hour and a half of standing here, but you know, it makes more sense to do it that size for this, because then it's enough for Andre and Mari and myself. And then what I'd do is I'd open it up, warm it up, make a gravy with the broth, and then put it on rice or mashed potatoes or something like that. It's going to be really good. Yeah, I can't stop eating this. Yeah. Yeah, this is good. I'll leave a little bit out maybe for the kids. Mix something with this. Now I just want to take off all the grease while my hands are greasy. Not like I can turn off the camera right now either, right? I've been sick too. I don't get sick. I get skinny. I get worn out. I get exhausted. I get runny noses when I'm coming into dust and working outside and all that crap. But when Amari went to Tisha's house, he came back with a cold. And I caught that cold. And I normally don't catch colds. So my immune system's been, well, my immune system honestly has been really low for 2 months now. Anyway, I caught the cold. No question about that. Because I'm constantly blowing my nose, like constantly. And then of course if I'm working outside like I did last week, that doesn't help. Nope. But I'm under that whip, right? Because they're expecting too much too fast for whatever it is that they expect. And that's not fair because, you know, you're not looking at routine yard maintenance when you're filling up 2 full size composting bins from the city of Surrey with basically freaking morning glory and any other weed out there that you don't want. Right? Andre just took out 2 bins and they're empty now, and yeah, you watch and see. I have to go out next week and it will affect my eyes. I'm telling you, it will. But I can't be afraid. I can't be afraid to face the future. No. You know what I'm saying? So, I didn't go this far for it to have it all ripped out underneath my feet, because there are other people out there that want me to have nothing. Absolutely nothing in my life. Yeah. Basically. Alright, that's good. I am so good. So I can lick my fingers on this one. So we got the meat ready. So now I just have to cut. Oh man, I like animal fat. It's so tasty. You don't even know. It's got the gelatin on it. The tree salad. It's my style. Okay. Oh, that's so good. Yeah, just moving around is messed up. So those are those organic peas. I don't remember where I bought these because I bought peas from a few different places, right? And they're like pretty much cooked. I mean, like the ones sitting in the bottom there, I can tell are a little softer because they've been absorbing the moisture. There's the pork, which is really good. There's the parsnips. There's the broth, which everything is cold. Let me taste these peas. So basically what I'm doing is a cold pack. The thing about a cold pack is you have to when you get everything in the canner, make sure your water is cold too in the canner, right? And you start it on low, very, very low, and you keep it on low for quite a long time in order to start warming things up. Like you're talking like a half an hour or more, right? Before you start bringing up the heat, because if you bring up the heat too fast, your jars are going to crack, no matter what. Not all of them, but some of them. So parsnips can really well. I like it when I can with parsnips. And you know, when you're eating, you kind of want, if you like parsnips, that is, when you come to your meal, you know, you kind of want to bite into it and get a good bite of parsnip. And because it's cooked and it's, you know, with other flavors, it's really good. So I'm just going to start filling up the jars with a little bit of parsnip to start. I'm going to do it as a Mod Podge, right? In other words, you know, parsnip on the bottom, throw in some peas, throw in some meat. So about an inch or so. These glasses don't stay on my head. I don't need them right now, I don't think. Whatever. Be grateful with the fact that Is somebody calling my name?
What?
Is that cats outside or is that somebody calling my name outside? Can you go look?
Give me a minute.
Please? Just a bag of nerves all the time. Yeah, just a bloody bag of nerves all the time. You don't even know. So anyway, parsnips are good. They can good, they taste good. Okay. So
Just Mickey meowing at the door.
Just Mickey meowing at the door. Okay. So I kind of have to feel what I'm doing here. Yeah.
Hey, Mickey's good.
What's that?
Just say hi to Mickey. Go.
Anyway, I can still do it. I'm grateful that I can still do it. Okay, so now we're going to just grab some peas. Or maybe we'll do some meat. So let me just fill up these jars a bit first. Okay, so you see better than me. Now the only thing that I can say that I did wrong here is when I cut that skin, I should have put it in the jar separate. Right? Had it separate to distribute it, whoops, evenly between the 7 jars versus throw it back in the bowl and then mix it because, you know, it's a Mod Podge, right? Outside of that, so we got a few parsnips on the bottom. You don't want to overdo it with the parsnips, right? And then we got a layer of little bit of peas or meat and then peas. And then, of course, meat with a few more parsnips with, yeah. So, and this here, I'm going to cook up for us later. It's just the Mod Podge. It's tasty. It'd be good for Amari. So I'm definitely going to cook that up for him. And then, you know, it depends, right? Like, he can eat it all. So I might, that's 2 meals for him, right? It's good for him. So I just might save it for him. It's so good. So now this broth, which is also tasty. Alright. Stewed for over 24 hours. Oh yeah. It doesn't need no salt. All I put in it was bay leaves. I put like 3 bay leaves in it. That was it. And did I put anything else in there? No salt. I didn't do none of that because it was a smoked ham. But it had already been kind of cooked, right? So it's mild. It's really good, actually. Yeah, I'm glad I'm doing this, even though I don't like doing it because of my eyes, right? It's only because of my eyes, but I'm not stupid either. So, and oh my God, look how nice and rich it is. I'm going to show you. You will see better than me, but you will see how nice and rich. I'll show you in a minute. Look at that. Oh, and you can, when I put it to my mouth, because it's cold right now, right? I can feel the gelatin in it. So that's real good. So this is going to be wonderful. Now, because those peas are not like 100% cooked right through, they're going to absorb a little bit of the liquid. But they're pretty much, you know, I didn't want them turning into mush. Because technically you're not supposed to be canning things that are mushy. Because it's hard for the heat to travel through them. Right? I mean, applesauce and all that's different. But, you know, you don't make the gravy. Like, if we want to make gravy, you make the gravy after the fact. After you open up the jar. Right? You heat it up. What are you? And then you make the gravy with the broth. But you don't can it with gravy. Hold on. My nose, right? Okay. That is so good. I'm telling you. And with the parsnips in there, adding that little extra flavor after the fact of cooking. Oh my God. It's going to be so good. So what I like to do is, I like before I start getting too anal about things in terms of headspace, I like to, obviously you have to debubble it just a bit, right? And then I like to let it sit for like 5 or 10 minutes and then top off. Because what happens is things begin to settle down, right? And those peas are like almost done. Like honestly, I don't think they're going to absorb that much water. So I am going to bring the headspace up to 1.5 inches anyway. Now, I can't really see, so when I was doing this, I'll show you how I got it to this point. Alright, but right now we're just doing this so that we can just let everything settle down because the water line will drop a bit usually. That's what happens, eh? You know? And then you just top off a tablespoon or whatever at a time to get to that headspace where you want it, right? See, this one's low, I can tell. Shadow, that's how I can tell. But when I was filling it up, because I can't really see, right? I had one finger at the end of the rim of this, like at the end of the rim. Where am I? See? I'll put my finger like that, right? And I'd fill up the water, the broth, to my finger, because my finger would feel it. And just by debubbling and moving things around, I can feel that the water line has dropped now. So yeah, definitely dropped. So that's how I'm gauging things right now, is with my finger. Okay, so what have I learned from this outside of, I don't see very well. It's getting harder and harder. Well, let me tell you something. With the cost of food and the way things are going, right? Okay? That ham, when I bought it, was like $17. and it was big, and it was like regular, like $38 because it was just like, you know, the specials at Canadian Superstore. I had the bone in it and all that, so it wasn't 3D printed as far as I'm concerned with the bone in. I had several bones in it. And it had the skin, it had everything that I liked, right? And it was smoked, and it sat in my fridge for like a week and a half or whatever. And then I threw it in the oven, and Andre and I, we weren't really with it, but I ate some of it and whatever. And then I just took a big chunk of it that was left over and threw it in the freezer. And then it sat in the freezer for umpteen how long, and I needed the freezer space, so I pulled it out, and obviously you can see what I'm doing. After all that said and done, I'm telling you, no regrets. Absolutely none. This is delicious if you like ham that's smoked. It's not a strong flavor, but I added absolutely no salt. It doesn't leave an after bite of salt when you sucking on your fingers, eating the meat or whatever, right? In terms of like being overly salty, because I baked it in the oven, so it baked off a bunch or whatever. Okay. Now, in terms of the cost, I had to buy the jars because I just needed them. So the jars, when my son was telling me these wide mouth are coming in at $35, $40 a case now, he's not kidding. I had to pay $30 for 12 1-liter size jars, wide mouth. Okay? But again, no regrets. Because when you do stuff like this, you kind of want the wide mouth. It's just, I find it works a little better than the regular mouth. And so $30, I got 7 jars, okay? And that's enough to make a meal for Amari, myself, and Andre, right? Andre, Amari, and myself. And it's delicious, okay? Plus, I've got this little leftover in here, and I put everything in there. So I'm going to put that back in the fridge. And then I have a few parsnips left. Now, when I bought the parsnips, I bought them like, oh, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks ago anyway. And they sat in my fridge. And I'm looking for the paper towel that I had here, as if I can see it, because I can't. Hold on a minute. I think they were like $5 or $6 for the 1 pound bag. Right? Okay. And I know, like, it's a good match, what I've done here. Now, if you don't like parsnips, you could use carrots. In a situation like that, I'd still recommend 1 inch thick. Okay? And keep them whole. Because when you're eating this kind of stuff, it's like, you know, you're going for that comfort food where you take a bite into the vegetable and you get a good bite. A good bite of carrot. So make sure it's a sweet carrot if you can get a sweet carrot, right? Like those jumbo sweet carrots, right? And then cut them into, you know, slices about almost 1 inch. That will be fine. And so that when you're eating and you get a big bite of it, among everything else that you're eating, you know, it really just does the job, right? So, you know, I wanted to put lima beans, a few lima beans in it. I wanted to, but I decided not to do that because I didn't want to make the jar too gassy, right? You know what I mean? Because beans can produce gas, and gas can pop lids, okay? And I didn't want to risk that from happening any more than it would with animal fat crawling up the jar. But there's a 1 inch head space on this, so, and it may drop a bit because of the peas, and I may, you know, this has been resting for a bit, so actually, to be honest with you, I should probably just top off a little bit more by tablespoon, from what I can tell. And you know, when you go blind, you find things to, of course I don't hear, you find ways to see things. So what I'm doing right now is I'm shaking the jar to see where the water shakes so I can get the shadow of the shake. The shadow of the shake, hey? There's a wrap. There's a wrap for you, the shadow of the shake. So when you get to this point, it's just a tablespoon at a time. And I'm going to keep it at about, I think it comes in at about 1.5 inch headspace, because I don't think the peas are going to cause too much problems because they're almost cooked. Oops. So before you wipe your rims, just make sure that your headspace is spot on. And then of course, it's greasy, so do a good job with your vinegar. I prefer paper towels. Do not use Kleenex or toilet paper, none of that crap, because it can't hold up to the wear and tear of wiping the rim. I learnt that. You'd be better off just to find a rag if you can't find a paper towel, or you don't have paper towels. A clean rag, right? To do that. So yeah, I'm just shaking because, you know, again, you let everything sit. Okay, you let everything sit so the water line settles. Right? Yeah. And then, so what I'm saying is, the next time they have a ham like this on sale again, hopefully I'll be able to see. And if I can see, I'm definitely going to do this again. It is worth it. It is so, so tasty. And I would do it the same way. I'd bake it in the oven first to degrease as much as you can from that first initial process. Right? You don't have to go off and freeze it. If you want to, you can freeze some and come back and can it another day like I did. But after you cook it in water and stew it for over 24 hours or so, right? Then you're going to get more grease out of it, right? So obviously you're going to degrease again 2 times, right? Not including what you cut off before you started doing whatever you're doing, okay? Because, you know, but don't panic about a little bit of grease, because you'd be surprised. Okay, so that, to me, from what I can tell, is pretty good, and it is definitely worth doing again. When you can pick up a big ham, and that ham was big, it was big, right, for 17 bucks, I remember. That's why I bought it, because it was $17. You know, you feed your family, or you eat your first meal, or whatever you do, and then you either can it right after that, the next couple of 2-3 days, can it up like I'm canning now, or you can pop it in the freezer, and then just throw it into the pot frozen as is after the fact, and then when you're done that, you cook it for 24 hours on 3 or so with a lid on so you don't lose a lot of liquid, right? Nothing's evaporating out, and you just give it a low stew, simmer, or whatever you call it, for over 24 hours at least, with a couple of bay leaves. Don't bother adding in any salt. It's not necessary. And then take out the meat, put it in a separate bowl, do what you're going to do with the bones. You can give it to the animals. I put them outside for the animals. If they want, they take. And then after the fact, then it goes, just bury them into the ground or something, because it adds calcium into the ground, right? And then, what do you call it? Put your pot in the fridge, let it sit for over 24 hours, so all the grease that boiled into the water, well, it's not boiling, don't boil it, just bring it to that low, just starting to boil, right? And then put your lid on and just keep it at it's just like that, right? Don't boil it, because if you boil it, you're going to boil the grease right into the liquid, so you don't really want to boil it, okay? But anyway, you bring it up to a point where you know, you can get it to that low simmer. And then after that, you know, you take the meat out, you take the bones out, take out your bay leaves, and then put it in the fridge, let it sit until you're ready to can. I should have canned this yesterday, but I had that support worker come by. So, and I was tired, right? Because, you know, I'm always tired these days, eh? It is what it is, though, right? But after doing this, I mean, I'm not looking forward to a 90-minute stand, do a dance, but I got a little thing that I'm going to show you that I'm going to do to amuse myself. And another way for maybe you might want to try and do for yourself to save money, long term. Maybe not short term, because, you know, you have to make that initial investment to do what I'm doing. But once you've done it, you're good to go for years and years and years and years when it comes to like Boyan cubes and those kind of things, right? Because stuff like that does not go bad, okay? So I bought some a long time ago, and I'm taking them out of the boxes, and I'm putting them into jars, and I'll show you when I'm canning, right? And you might want to do that for yourself, because with the way cost of food is going, I don't know. I said years ago I said this, people, it's going to get to the point where you're going to go to the grocery store, and it's like a museum. It's not that you're going to be able to afford to buy it, per se, as you're going to be walking by and looking at it and wishing you could buy it and eat it. It becomes a museum, and there's a name for that. There's a, like when the economy collapses, right? Wherever, that's what happens. Food is there, but it's not available for everybody. And that's what's happening for us, for a lot of people. So, I'm glad I have this support worker to help me navigate around the issues I have with housing insecurity, considering all things said, when it comes to that issue, because it's not fair that I've done what I've done all these years to be facing that, and then to have my quote unquote expired food treated as if it's insignificant, like anything else that I may own. To which here's an example. Now, I made this. Andre's been asking for it. I have some downstairs in Auntie Chemay's room that's older, in 500 ml pint-sized jars. I just have to get to them, see how they've been holding up all these years, right? Because these ones I did in 2024. Does not sound hollow. Sounds tinny. Okay? And what it is chili beef steak. So I didn't use hamburger. And perhaps I would have grounded up the beef steak, but I wouldn't have used hamburger. I prefer to grind my own beef to make my own hamburger, to do something like this. Okay? Alright? And that was December 18th of 2024. So this is bona fide 100% real food. There's no glucose, fructose, modified cornstarch. You know how they mechanically separate beef and then put it all back together to whatever. You know what I'm saying? That's like, because he likes and you know, I'm not saying I don't eat chunky soup, because from time to time I do, because it's convenient. But I've told Andre, Nana can only see for so long, and like, I don't know how I'm going to teach him, but you need to learn how to do this stuff, because this is the better way to go when it comes to nutrition and money for, dollar, like money, value for your dollar. Because even if I was to buy 4 cans of chunky soup, he likes chili Texas style chunky soup, right? even if I was to buy... What's leaking here? Something's leaking. Oh my God. I don't know. Even if I was to buy, I don't think my pot's leaking. Even if I was to buy, I'm wondering if my pot's leaking. It's a different pot. Mind you, I was rinsing it off. Anyway, that's what I'm going to put in the fridge back, and I'm going to put potatoes in it, and if I have a couple of more little parsnips, and that's going to be some soup. Oh yes, and I did put one whole onion when I was stewing this on the stove for over 24 hours. Anyway, on sale for $2 a can, you get 4 cans maximum, and then after that you're paying, oh, I don't know, $3.79 a can or something like that. For just a can of chunky soup, which is a little more than 500 mils. And, you know, like, that's $8. So if you do 12 cans, you know, 8 and 8 is what, 16, and another 12 is, or 4 is $8. Like, so that's $24 for 12 cans of chunky soup. Instead of taking that $24, you'd be better off to go buy $24 of beef on sale for, well, it's usually coming in at $6.99, $7.99. It used to be $4.99 a pound on sale. Then it went to $5.99 a pound on sale. Now it's like $6.99, $7.99 a pound, which if it comes in at those prices, I will buy. And that's when I would spend $70 or whatever the hell it is. I doubled the $24. So, you know, at least, if not triple, and then I just can up a whole bunch of freaking chili and get the better product and know what's inside the jar. Well, it's the same kind of idea here, because ultimately, at the end of the day, the only thing that, you know, like I said, these parsnips have been in my fridge for like 3 weeks, almost 4 weeks now, if I can remember correctly. The ham's been in the freezer for quite a while. And the peas, you know, I've been buying in bulk over the years when it comes to that kind of stuff, so that didn't cost me anything. So it just cost me the jars. That's it. That's it. And I have no problem with that, because it's worth it, right? And then I take the excess jars, and I bought some, what is this? Wheat germ. Get them out of the packaging, right? And then nutritional yeast, okay, which is really, has a lot of nutrients in it. So I know I have some around the house from back in the day. I bought from probably Organic Matters, because I remember something similar to this. I just don't know where the jar is. So anyway, I got this. I'm going to start using this more, right, because of the nutrients that are in it, which is a lot. And then if you're looking for B vitamins, this is from Europe. This is packed full of B vitamins. Apparently it never goes bad. Okay? I happen to have one jar in my fridge. Canadian Superstore does sell it, but they've been out of stock forever. So every time I go online, I'm always looking to see if they got it back in stock. And then if they have it in stock, then that's probably when I'll buy like 10 of them. And if you go online on Amazon, they want like $27 for a little jar. But if you go to Canadian Superstore and if it's in stock, it's under $6 a jar. Do you do the math on that one? So that's when you'd want to stock up. But what I found though, I hope this camera doesn't click out here, okay? What I found though is I had this, because I never really knew what it was, but you know, I came across some information. And like, if you're, you know, this is what you want for B vitamins. It's packed full of B vitamins. Anyway, I bought this a long time ago for whatever reason. Don't ask me when. Oh, I think I did see a date on it. Best before date. But you have to remember, it doesn't go bad. Okay? Expiry date, 2021. Alright. It was in this cupboard. And I'm like, when I found it just recently, I'm like, oh, I got a jar, yay! Because I've, you know, right, always thinking about Amari or whatever, right? But what I found though is it must have fermented in the jar, and it leached out a little bit. Okay? It leached out a little bit. Honey in a jar, sealed. Sometimes, I don't know why, I heat fluctuation, I would think. Right? Because this, what I'm trying to tell you is if you're going to buy stuff like this, put it low to the ground where it's nice and cool. Cool, dark, dry place. The cooler the better. Low to the ground towards the north wall to prevent it from fermenting, to make it come out as of, because honey will do the same thing from time to time. Doesn't mean that it's bad though, okay? So anyway, I've got one jar. But when I find this, I'm going to stock up on it because it's full of B vitamins. So look for that kind. It's called Marmite for your B vitamins. As well as its nutritional yeast is not as good as Marmite. This is better. But this also is good too. Because if you notice, I put this out there. Right? So, yeah. Vitamin B. 29%. And then it's folate. 98%. Another vitamin B. A different kind. I don't know, vitamin B something, vitamin B6, vitamin B12. Only this has more, because this is an extract, where this is a flake. So I would recommend getting yourself some jars. Get a vacuum sealer if you can. You can buy them on Amazon, the little ones that can go on jars, and they're not that expensive. Right? And I'd vacuum seal a few jars like this and just keep them on hand with just the way things are going in the world. Just because. Right? Because these are the supplements to the things that you might end up lacking in your diet because of our grocery stores turning into museums. Okay, so I'm going to go plug this camera in and get these lids on, and then put it in the canner, but cold water, because this is cold pack. And then I'm going to start on low, like three, really, trust me. Okay, you don't want to lose a jar. And then just keep it on a low for a half an hour, seriously, and then just inch it up a bit at a time, so that it all starts to, right? And then once, you feel, because you'll feel the canner, right? You feel comfortable that, because inside the jar, it's cold. Everything's cold. It's cold, like cold, as if it just came out of a fridge, because it did, outside of the parsnips. So you're looking at a half an hour to 45 minutes to warm up the jars before you can start bringing up the heat to get on with the venting of the canner and yada yada. Otherwise, if you bring it up too fast, your jars will just, one or two of your jars will crack, and you'll be really mad, because I learned my lesson. Anyway, this is the kind of carrot I'm talking about. If you don't like parsnip, get the sweeter one, right? And you might want to taste it first before you put it in the jar. Or get organic carrots or something if you don't want to use parsnip. And again, keep them whole, but about a 1 inch thick. And when you make whatever you're going to make, and you bite into it, and you just got a big juicy bite of parsnip or a big juicy bite of carrot, you're really going to like it. You're really going to like it. So isn't that beautiful? No regrets. I am going to do this again. Definitely. Definitely. So I'm on the hunt for ham. Discounted, on sale. Right? Okay, so I got the stove on 3. You put the lid on. Okay? Because when things start to heat up and stuff, it's hard, the lid. So, and again, you don't want to heat it up fast. It's very cold right now. So, that's the only thing I don't like about cold pack. Okay? And I don't have glasses here. That's the only thing I don't like about cold pack. you just have to be careful because inside the jar is cold, right? It starts to heat up. If you heat it up too fast on the outside, I don't know, it's cold on the inside with the heat coming in from the outside can crack the jar. I don't like that. So I just, last time I did this, I just gave it a long time for it to start warming up slowly. Now I'm not going to do what I'm going to do when I'm doing my 90-minute dance. Oh, I'm so tired though. But when I am standing here, I'm going to make myself a coffee right now. Do you see what's going on? Okay. Right. I already got vegetable. I don't know what these are. Beef. I don't know if they're all beef. So one will be chicken, one will be beef. I should have some of these downstairs somewhere. Where, I don't know. If I find them, I'll end up taking them out and putting them in jars. I had these in a different box in my room, and then I just decided I'd put them in here. I was going to dehydrate them because I noticed the chicken was kind of soft. But ultimately, at the end of the day, if you get one of these and you put them up in your cupboard and you leave them there for years, they end up drying up anyway. So in this situation, what I've done, I think these ones are all beef. Yeah. Oh my God. Looks like beef. Oh my God, but I can't read it. What I do is I take everything out of the pack. Right? This is something else you might want to do. Let me get some glasses. Hold on. Okay. I should be able to see with these ones. Beef, bouillon, artificial flavored. Okay. They come in handy. Times are getting rough. So what I decided to do, versus having them like this long term, to which they've already been like that for a while now, between two different kind of containers, I take them out of the box. I do not unwrap them. The fold is on the bottom, and I just start placing them in the jar, just one on top of each other. And the ones that are different, I'll mix them up and kind of just, you know, as long as it's beef, because it could be like a different product, right? Could be a different product that has a different color wrapping on it. So you just kind of speckle it in there. Mix them up a little bit. Alright. I have vegetable. Like these ones. I have vegetable already 3/4 full. And then in my travels, made with natural beef stock. In my travels, you know, as I'm shopping, right? Like today, for example, it's a new week at Canadian Superstore. So I Googled on their website these to see if, one, they were on sale, and if not on sale, were they providing PC points, right? And they're not on sale, so they have those little round ones for 100 and I think 75 grams or something at $4.99 a container now, right? But you can get some PC point. You get 200 points for every $2 you spend. But you have to spend $25 or something. I don't know. You end up saving like $3.50, but that's how you're gonna have to shop for this stuff, people. I'm telling you. So, do you see how one is different color? Right, but they're both beef. So, because I have more of these, I tend to stack more levels of that, and then I'll piece in those ones in between for something different, right? And then I think this one here is chicken, so that's what I'm going to do when I'm having to stand here, right, for 90 minutes to keep myself busy. And then because I'm a little short on my jars, I want them full. Now I'm on the hunt to buy a few more when I can find them on sale, or at least get PC point back on them, so it, I get my money back, right? For a later date, which is fine by me as long as it's cheaper than the regular price. Because something like this stored, even if it was stored like this for years, it would be fine. But I want the airflow, right? And they're already hard, so the worst that's going to happen is it's just going to dry out, and because it's really high in salt, and that's the preservative, right? So, and then what will happen after I get my jars full, so I want them full, or I'll take this jar, fill up this jar with beef, fill up another jar with vegetables, fill up another jar with chicken. If you like the mushrooms one, you can do the mushroom one, right? So you have 4 different jars with these little bouillon cubes in them per category. And then use those regularly, and when the jar starts to go down or you're empty, that's when you go for the big jar and you fill up the small jar. And because you bought everything on sale, and this stuff technically doesn't go bad, you'll have it for years. You won't have to worry about it. Right? That's what food prep provides. But you have to, work towards that. Right? And you can't let people criticize you for thinking about your family. Or for yourself, for that matter, right? These things will outlive me. Yeah. They'll outlive me. No. Are my kids going to be stupid and throw it out and give it to somebody else? Or are they going to end up saying, oh my God, I'm so glad Mom did this for us? Yeah. And if I could get them to learn how to can, that would even be better. My son got mad at me, I don't know, over something a while back. What was it? It was Andre. He made a desk. But it was bigger than what I expected from what he was telling me, right? So when he brought it in, let's see, these ones fall off. When he brought it in, I was a little surprised. And I'm like, holy crap, I don't know how that's going to work in the living room. And Marcane took it the wrong way. started screaming at me, saying, I don't know, something about, oh, you can have your pots, but Andre can't have his desk. And I'm like, well, no, it's not that he can't have his desk. You know, it's not what I expected. It's not what him and I talked about. Because, you know, the point of clearing out the living room was to make more room for Amari. Not make it less space because of a desk that, I mean, it's there now and it's working out pretty good. You know, I'm glad he did it, and he made it himself out of a old bed frame. So, when the social worker came to the house, right, and, you know, she's looking, oh my God, that looks like it came from IKEA. Andre's saying, no, I made it with my uncle. But, you know, it's like, I get screamed at for having freaking pots. For crying out loud. Well, those pots, you know, they're good pots, man. You'd be stupid to throw out those pots. Yeah. So I don't know what's going to happen to my pots any more than I know what's going to happen with this stuff. Sometimes people have to get real, just, I don't know. He's having a kid. This is his first one. I don't know how many he's going to have. But he ain't going to feel it for a while when it comes to feeding and all that. Just whatever, because little ones don't eat much. And they're easy to control. Because they're little. Alright. Well, I just remind them, you didn't feed 5 kids, so shut up. What the hell do you know? So. But yeah, that's what I'm going to do when I'm standing here. But this thing has to... So, okay, so it's on 3. It's going to take a while, right? And you just have to feel it. Is the burner even working? Oh my God. No, not really. I'll just bring it up a bit. Well, I guess it would help if I had it on 3. I had it on 2. Yeah. So, I'm on the hunt for these things, just to fill up my jars. Right. And, have my ones that I have on hand. And of course, another ham. So, yeah, this will take up more than what I've got here. And I got a few more kicking around too. What's this one? I know I had a whole bunch of these downstairs, but good luck finding them. What's this one? Oh, this one's chicken flavor. Different brand. What's this one? Chicken. So yeah, that's what I do. So that's what I'll be doing when I'll be standing here. Okay, so while I'm waiting for that canner to heat up slowly but surely, we're going to listen to what this next person after this person's got to say about the mass immigration replacement situation that we got going on in Canada, where a large majority of Indian people from India, with a lot of them being Punjabis, coming to Canada and infiltrating our political systems to acquire mass wealth for the collective beehive within the temples. And I suppose the funeral homes, if you think about Mr. Gill and what happened to him, being that he's a dirty secret now. Because people want to control the narrative. It's not like I forced myself into that funeral cathedral. It's because it's beyond a funeral home. Okay, it's a cathedral, for crying out loud. It was designed to look like a temple. It went from temple to temple. All right, as I sit here and I worry every day about what's coming based on the politics that I'm finding myself in, people, by no fault of my own, okay? Right along with a whole other bunch of Canadians. Rich or poor, it doesn't matter. We're just not like them. We're different. So therefore, you know, the balance of justice isn't swinging evenly. They don't have to worry about being gang-stalked by a group of individuals that want to play the race card when it's convenient for them, right? Or play the victims when it's convenient for them, when in fact they're the predatory class, right? Because their mission is to take over Canada, establish a new country for themselves as a collective, right? One way or another, whether they're Hindu or Punjabis or whatever. I'm not saying other people don't come to Canada from different countries, because they do, but clearly our federal government has backroom deals going on with, you know, the leaders of India as a whole, with what, 1.4 billion people, where they want to bring in another 60 million into Canada over the next umpteen years because we have this quote-unquote space? Yeah, okay. So anyway, I'm listening to this video, and the person that's coming in next, I like the way he was saying what he was saying, because I couldn't say it the way he said it. I didn't listen to it all, but I thought it was worth recording it, okay? So that's what we're going to do. We're going to listen to the next guy. Not this guy, we're at the end of this guy. But I will provide the link into my description box, because I am worried about my food security every day, right along with my books, right along with my grandkids' toys, you know, or my clothes, or my pots, or anything that I might own, being that I'm always being told to get rid of everything. You know?
Better inside of you.
India is trying to colonize the West without...
India is trying to colonize the West. I agree with that 150%, 200%, 1,000%.
even firing a shot.
Without firing a shot. But they do make threats. They do stalk, gang stalk. They do spy. They do run their energy weapons through their rental housings. Right? They expect things that are unreasonable as they manipulate the housing market through the temples, through that collective beehive, where, you know, they have a reason to kick you out and triple the rent, double the rent, quadruple the rent the minute you're gone, because they know that they can find a replacement for you. And what? The government will look after you, Judy? Don't worry, you're never going to go hungry. Well, that's not true. Look what happened to Sierra. Where was the government for Sierra? Oh, I'm blind? Does it make me special? As if. And when I go into the healthcare system, what am I coming into contact with? A whole bunch of covert racist individuals that don't like me because they see me as the problem to be reprimanded for the sins of my quote unquote forefathers. And if they're not saying it straight up to your face, they're whispering it behind your back. And next thing you know, you get injured. And what you gonna do? Go crying to the government? Yeah, right. As if the government gives a jack shit. They don't. Any more than anybody else that's perpetrating this crap. But it doesn't mean you can't stand up for yourself and fight the good fight. And when you do, what happens? They come back 10 times harder, 10 times meaner and badder and miserable and threatening and intimidating and scary and right? Where am I going? To the same location after I leave this to another same kind of, you know how they say from one spot to the next it's all the same? Yeah, right.
And they are doing it intentionally to replace white people in their own countries at breakneck speed, to expand...
At breakneck speed. I said to this support worker, whatever I'm going through with this nonstop throwing my stuff around, telling me to get rid of shit, making me pay for things that should never have been thrown out in the bin in the first place, got me working in the yard, want me to do this, want me to do that, don't care if I got rats up in the roof, the ceiling, don't care if I got rats down crawling through the walls. Now they're trying to chew into the basement when the mice aren't running around. Well, nobody's doing anything about the outside except for my son, and he stopped doing it because I have to be the one to buy the freaking foam. Like, come on, people. Right? I gotta do this and do that outside and do, like the good old days. Just keep on doing until you can't do no more, and even then it's not gonna be enough. Right? And then I get more threats on me. Because it's not that it's not enough. It's the fact that they want double, triple, quadruple on the rent. They want a fresh crew to come in and do their jobs for them when it comes to extreme yard maintenance and pay for it while they do it, as they pay for their own tools and their own supplies, right? And not be held to account, because that's all good business for the collective beehive that all congregate in these temples or wherever they go. I don't know where Hindus go. I suppose they have a temple too, but pretty much all the same mentality, right along with the Muslims. If the Muslims can do it, they're going to do it too. But they're not the predominant, though. You see, that's the thing. It's the Punjabis. For whatever reason, the federal government plays favoritism with them. And it has something to do with the backroom deals. And along comes the illegal organ harvesting. One big cover-up. Thousands and thousands and thousands of people having their murders covered up. Having their organs illegally harvested covered up.
Their territory, wealth, and resources. So, how are they doing it? Well, their demographic strategy of imperialism is really quite simple. Leverage mass immigration and exploit Western democratic systems to invade the West. And guess what? They're doing it in partnership with our government, conservatives and liberals alike. Just look how many Indians, who aren't Canadians, are in our government. To make matters worse, it would only take a tiny fraction of India's 1.48 billion people to completely outnumber whites in Canada. Our corrupt government has been bringing in far more Indians than any other demographic group for many years. Beyond getting into political power to sway Canadian policies in their favor, they're also getting into our institutions with institutional power. And Indians now make up a significant portion of our law enforcement. Just this month, Peel Police, which aims at being Canada's most progressive and inclusive police force, are investigating 82 officers for cheating to get promotions. They are also invading the West by abusing our foreign student program, to the point where tens of thousands of them aren't even showing up for class. They just use fraudulent documents, pretend to be students, come here, don't show up to class, and then never leave. Our Auditor General of Canada has identified 153,000 students as potentially non-compliant. Let's not forget that Carney and...
Yeah, well, let's not forget, though, we're dealing with a culture of people that do no wrong, that are the superior race of all races on the planet, and for whatever reason have the biggest entitlement mentality when it comes to wealth building and owning something, before anybody else can own anything. And if you own something and you're not like them, then you better be prepared to lose it. Because at the end of the day, they don't give a rat's ass where you go after you lose it. Because then they can sit there and justify their quote-unquote bad behavior and how they mistreated you to the point where you end up becoming that flat pancake on a road that everybody's riding over, treating it like roadkill, right? As if you put yourself out there purposely on your own. Oh no, but they brought in maid. So if you can't handle the stress of being gang stalked, extorted, constantly under fire with psychological warfare, being threatened with this, threatened with that, intimidated with this, scared with that, if you can't handle it, then just go to your doctor, and it doesn't matter. They'll just sign you up to maid, and problem be gone. Problem be gone. And now that they got rid of you, that just makes it 20 more people from their country to come here. That's it. For every one that they get rid of here, they bring in 20 more of theirs. And that's the bottom line. And I'm not the only one that's outspoken about it. But, you see, you can't speak out about it because then they punish you for that, right? Because you're dissenter, you know? You're the rebel riser or whatever. You're the one that wants to cause trouble. For what? For them? Maybe you just don't want to die and be tortured before you die. Maybe you don't want to see your family, whatever's left of it, because you know they're dying, one here, one there, one big cover up over there and another big cover up over there, and right? And maybe you'd like to think that they could have a little bit of a life before they die, being that there's so many of them dying so young now. If they're not dying as teens, they're dying in their early 20s, early 30s, with their murders being covered up, as the ones that are covering it up are telling you to get rid of everything and to forget that you even had a family. And if you have a family, get rid of that too. Because you're not entitled to have a family or a life or anything in fucking Canada because you can't keep up with the Punjabis or the Hindus or the Muslims or maybe the Chinese. Which one is it? Toss a coin. Cut it in half. Both sides. See what's see, you know? Freaking, I don't know, people.
His cronies just inked $100 million deal to give to, you guessed it, Indian students. And they abuse our temporary foreign work program. We don't need them here. Think about it. Indians could never compete with Westerners' ingenuity. We went to the moon, invented electricity, cars, planes, the internet, telephone. You name it, the talent is in the West. The only reason we're in...
I am getting older and older and older, and honestly, when my time comes and I gotta go to the healthcare system and start dealing with those people like I dealt when Uncle John was in the healthcare system, or you think I'm gonna feel safe? Yeah, okay. I don't think so.
Importing millions of Indians is so that corrupt governments can usher in a new world order, and so that big corporations can benefit from cheap slave labor. And of course, they abuse and exploit our severely broken and corrupt immigration system. Just look at Bill C-3, which is a demographic nuclear weapon, a loophole that allows an Indian person with citizenship to literally pass on Canadian citizenship to every one of their descendants forever. Canada's white founding stock has dropped from about 90% of Canada's total population just a few decades ago to about 50% now, and dropping fast.
Yeah, it's because we're dying. And our murders are being covered up. Or we're dying because of stress. being forced out onto the streets and being told that that's good business. Yeah.
Accelerated by the fact that about 42% of all births in Canada now are to foreign-born mothers. Most Indians in Canada today can barely speak English and are simply recreating India here with their culture, their values, and their religion.
Yeah, that dude that came to the house last year in January of 2025 could not speak very good English either, but yet he could say enough to say, get rid of everything, get rid of everything, get rid of everything. Yeah, right.
White people, we have to stop having this irrational fear of being called.
And it's another repeat. And I don't have the energy to keep up, people, because I got responsibilities outside of living in a yard for more than half my life that I have left. Okay, I already invested 14, 13 years with more than half of my life outside in a yard. And they want me back out there. And for what? So they can say it's not enough. Yeah.
Racist, because the future of our country and our people hangs in the balance.
Oh, 100%. This is definitely Toronto. This is definitely in Toronto. This is definitely...
Now, I wanted to do a Fasaki, but that board director, he didn't have the balls to do it. Okay, honestly, I'm feeling really bad. Well, I feel bad every day, but right now, just, I'm trying to do a video being positive, even though I don't feel very positive, because everything's on the line because of that mean lawyer grandson who has yet to show up. But when he shows up, I gotta be prepared to be put into my place, if not straight up knocked out. Okay, because Mrs. Gill warned me. In other words, get outside, do this, 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 and this, and this, exactly the way I tell you to do it. Get rid of everything, yada, 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 yada. And you got 1 month to do it, because once he shows up, that's it, you're toast. So, of course, I can't. It's been raining. You know, I've had a cold for a couple of weeks. It's not going away. Obviously, I'm 90 pounds. Your skin is hanging off my bones. I'm starting to look like Amari. Right? And my body works properly, but besides that, in terms of like my hormones, and well, they used to work properly, maybe they don't anymore, I don't know. All I know is I'm exhausted, and I keep a full pace, like I do. I'm every day I'm doing something. You know, I'm moving things around, changing shit up, right? Organizing, whatever, having to clean everything anytime I get downstairs, and that's when I get downstairs. Yada yada, and you know, I bought some flowers, I bought a few vegetable plants, and Tisha's supposed to come over and with the kids, and we're gonna plant a few vegetables and some herbs and a few flowers, and Andre's gonna start on the rabbit hutch. I'm trying to stay positive. But I don't feel positive, because, you know, it's like my life is on the line. My grandkids' lives are on the line. The rest of my remaining children's lives, and their children, who happen to be my grandchildren, all their lives are on the line. And, you know, the one person that actually stuck up for something, if you want to call it justice, to one degree or another, he wanted to be more a part of the solution than versus the problem. He got silenced and buried, 10,000 deep in bedrock with a whole bunch of cement poured over it as if he was Chernobyl, and they had to silence him, right, and punish me for that, to make me look like I was spreading the misinformation when that's not true, and they damn well know it, right? And they can't say they didn't know about my YouTube videos, because they've known me for 15 freaking years, and it's not the first time they've came in with their whatever to see what's going on, just so they can be one step ahead of me when they're not spying on me with their spyware in the house, outside of the house, or wherever they set up their systems, because you know they can afford it, and that's just a fact, because they do play dirty pool as landlords in general. It wouldn't be the first landlord that was spying on me with their spyware, listening devices and crap. That's what happened at that fourplex, okay? So, you know, I take all that shit with a grain of salt. When oh no, you wouldn't do that. Yeah, right. Okay, yeah, sure. You got all this money. It doesn't cost you anything to set up a little bit of spyware if you can be one step ahead and play dirty pool. So, you know, like, it doesn't make me feel good about talking about this shit, people. But when people are dying and losing everything because they're being told that they can't own anything because they're useless and they're this and they're that and yada-yada and just whatever, like, because they know that they can bring in their slave state within their own freaking country and exploit the ones that they can exploit through slave labor, as well as pander to the ones that will commit heinous crimes like freaking Dr. Barr, doctors that will use taxpayers' money and their own operating teams to come into districts to take out organs and put them someplace else and do backroom deals on that shit when it's convenient for them. And that's just a fact. It's just a fact. It's just getting worse, not better. What do you think? Like, killing off me, they're going to solve the problem? They're going to silence the storm that's coming? They're going to, what is that, quail? Like, you know, when you calm a storm? The storm is, like, you know, like, it's psychological warfare, but it's getting to the point where people are waking up more and more. And what? Do Canadian-born people that are not like them, do we even have a chance? What's it going to take where we actually have a chance? It's not like I can leave the country. I don't have that privilege. Right?
We're Canadian, we're multicultural, but come on.
If we're going to their country, we will have to adapt to their culture, right? They should do the same thing here.
Well, I do feel like I'm a stranger in my own country.
One of the most obvious consequences of the federal government's die-hard commitment to mass immigration would be the creation of ethnic enclaves, cities and towns across the country that don't look very Canadian and don't feel very Canadian. But one of the most infamous examples of that in our country is Brampton, here in the GTA. Let me just take you through some of the most recent demographic data that we have available about Brampton from the 2021 census. Now, keep in mind, Canada's population has spiked since 2021, and the majority of immigrants who come to Canada come to Ontario. And it appears that Brampton
and British Columbia, Canada, and then Alberta. Yeah.
Is where most of them happen to end up. The 2021 census data shows that Brampton is more than 80% visible minority. That means it's more than 80% non-white. Well, you break that data down even further, you start to figure out where everyone who lives in Brampton comes from. The top ethnic origin in the Brampton 2021 census data is India, unsurprisingly. 180,300 people who live in Brampton come from India. The second happens to be Punjabi. Why they are...
Which is India. Which they want their own separate country. Or at least be the political controlling majority who own the majority of the wealth in whatever location that they congregate in as they spread out.
Separated into different categories, I'm not quite sure, but 57,000. After that, it is Sikh at 43.
Well, Punjabis and Sikh are pretty much the same. The Sikh is just a little more serious, but the Punjabi goes to the temple too. The Sikh wears the turban, the Punjabi goes to the same temple where the Sikh goes. Okay? When you look at a Sikh, you call him a Sikh, you also call him a Punjabi. They speak Punjabi. It's not really a religion. Sikh is the religion to the Punjabis. There's Hindus from India, Tamils who they don't like. Punjabis don't like Tamils. Hindus don't like Tamils because they're not as rich as they are within their own ethnic groups. Because Sarah and Gari, when I lived at Sarah's house and looked after Gari for 3.5 years, they were Tamil. I was asking help for Sarah. I went to I asked Punjabis to help me with Sarah. I think that was around the time Wally took me to the temple. I asked for help for Sarah. But because she was Tamil from India, they didn't want to deal with her because she was Tamil.
3,940. Then you get Canadian-born at 40,000. If you keep going further, you see that Hindu and Pakistani both come in right around 26,000.
Okay, so Hindus are at the bottom of the freaking totem pole, for crying out loud. There you go.
What's most remarkable about Brampton's demographic data is that from 2016 to 2021, Brampton lost 6,000 people who were originally born in Canada. That's not the percentage of them declining. That's people who have actually left Brampton. Meanwhile, in that same
or died
period of time, Brampton's foreign-born population increased to 343,690, an increase of 11.3% compared to the decrease of 2.16% of Canadian-born residents in Brampton. Non-permanent residents who live in Brampton in 2016 went from 9,000 to 40,000. Again, that's just from 2016 to 2021, and we know, of course, that Canada's temporary immigration has spiked in the same period of time. So this data, it's safe to say, is quite out of date, but even still, that tells you a lot about the makeup of Brampton. That tells you a lot about the makeup of this ethnic enclave. So we're here to try and figure out if Brampton really deserves its reputation as one of the most infamous ethnic enclaves in Canada. We're going to explore the city, take a look around, and see what we can find in Brampton for ourselves.
Punjabi.
Canadians are freaking out over this photo that just dropped from Ottawa's public transportation system, which is taxpayer funded. It shows the latest batch of new hires, and pretty much every single one is Indian. Canada has 2.2 million people hitting food banks every month, 1.5 million unemployed,
Yeah, well, my landlady is telling me to get rid of my food because it, quote-unquote, expired. You okay?
million on welfare, and 4 million living below the poverty line. Homelessness is at its worst since the Great Depression, but the country is bringing in the highest numbers of immigrants and refugees per capita in the entire G7. Yet they're still going out of their way to hire foreigners over their own people. People are straight up asking, is the Great White Replacement just a conspiracy because
New report, racism directed at Indian people has soared in Canada. Is it racism, though? Is it racism, though? And the reason that I ask this, there's actually multiple reasons. Racism is the belief, ideology, or systemic practice that ranks human beings in a hierarchy based on race or ethnicity.
You are nothing but a welfare bum. You sit on your ass all day and do nothing. You are useless, right? You have to pay for the sins of your forefathers. Do as we say, because if you don't, you're going to get punished. And we don't care what happens to you after the fact, because you can't keep up with the quote-unquote Joneses when it comes to, I don't know, wealth building.
Asserting that some are inherently superior to others. Listen, if I have to go to Tim Hortons, okay, I don't have to go to Tim Hortons, but the Canadian government is giving, East Indian people a whole lot of fucking grant.
East Indians, that's what they were calling, that's what people used to call them when I was like 10 years old, people. They didn't like it. Then it became South Asians. I haven't heard East Indian for a long time.
So they're able to purchase all of these businesses. That's why we're being infiltrated. But But if I have to go to one of these establishments and worry that I'm going to catch hepatitis or I'm going to get E. coli poisoning because a lot of you use your bare hands to wipe your assholes after you shit and don't believe in soap, that doesn't make me racist. That makes you a fucking pig. If I have to defend why you can't come into my house or my police station with the knife on your hip, that doesn't make me racist. That makes me afraid.
Yeah, I'm afraid too, people. Okay, so that canner's getting warmer and warmer, so I have to start that very soon. It is what it is, people. You know, but at the end of the day, I feel really bad. I do. Because my neighbors, right, where the Syrians were living, well, whatever the other neighbor was saying, they had their information wrong. The person who owns the house next to me, where the Syrians were living, who, you know, was owned by the Koreans, yada yada. Anyway, he still owns that place, eh? Yeah, he's got his sign up for sale, you know, he's looking for the big fish, but big fish ain't biting yet. So, in the meantime, there's some fellas that live in the basement, right? I'll just put this on me for a minute. There's some fellas that live in the basement, right? And, they were out in the yard yesterday, right? And they were where that patch of dirt was. Anyway, I just said, hey, you know, I went outside, you know, so-and-so, and, you know, like, there's, you know, Amjit. Anyway, does he still own the house? Right? Like, because I was told that Muslims, like, you know, because they're wearing, a couple of them are wearing turbans, and I'm like, where's the Muslims? And I said, you know, I was told that Muslims bought this place now. There's, like, where's the 7 Muslims that own this house, right? Because, you know, that's what I was told from a birdie in the neighborhood. And they said, oh, no, you know, Arjit, I think. Ugh. Anyway, he still owns the house. And the fellas that were out there, they were just starting to plant. I said, what you guys doing? Like, you know, looks like you're going to start planting or something. They go, yeah, we're planting a garden. I said, planting a garden? I said, well, you go, that's good, right? You know, like, right? There was like 4 of them out there, and they were all around that little spot. They were getting the ground ready, and I said, okay, so what you planting? Colander, beans. Oh, they rattled off a few things, right? And I said, oh, well, that's cool, right? You know, I admire you guys for that. Like, you know, happy planting, good for you, right? And then, you know, I said, yeah, you know, 5 years they've been living at the bottom, right? I said, well, now that the Syrians moved up, are you guys going to move up on top, or are you happy where you're at? And he said, oh, no, happy where we're at. You know, I was just basically working and, you know, been here 5 years. And then another fellow piped up and he said, oh, yeah, I remember you. I said, oh, well, I you know, back in the day, you know, at one point for a couple of years, I tried to plant over there because at one point it turned into a big weed pit, especially when it was a crack shack, because it was a crack shack for a year and a half, almost 2 years, right? And, you know, the weeds were so out of control in there, I tried to plant a little, you know, a couple of years. But he goes, yeah, I've been around for 9 years, and I remember you used to come out here and plant. And I'm like, yes, but it's nice to see you guys planting. Like, you know, you go, right? Good for you, right? And I said, is that little walnut tree still there? Walnut? We don't know. And I said, well, can I come over and show you, right? See, because I can't see very well. I have to touch it and smell it. So as soon as I got to it, right, I could smell it. I said, oh, yeah, this is you know, it kind of morphed from a black walnut. Its leaves are kind of going more towards like an English walnut, but it has too many. So through cross-pollination, and like somebody had already cut it, and it sprung back up. But it's a little bush, and I'm like, oh, yeah, this is black walnut. And I can, or, you know, right? Right? He goes, oh, and they're all like, ooh. So, you know, like, I was really happy for them people. Like, really happy for them. The guys were out there, you know, planting their own little garden. They lived there for 5 years, some of them, some a little longer than 5 years, right? And, you know, living their life, not bothering anybody, you know, like, so it's not like I'm out to get the Punjabis or the quote-unquote Sikhs or whatever. It has nothing to do about that, people. It's about, you know, we have a right to survive in the countries we were born in, especially if they're developed countries, and not be victims to genocide. And even the owner of that house told me too many immigrants, it needs to slow down because it's causing too many problems, period. And he came from India, and he wears a turban. So even the men with the turbans are saying the same thing. Maybe not the way other people say it or the way I say it, but then they're not being gang stalked. They're not being extorted. They're not being targeted. They're not being injured. You know what I mean? I'm not saying their kids, some of them aren't dying, because they are. They have gang violence with the younger generation because the older generation worked, accumulated mass wealth, and then the kids grew up kind of spoiled, some of them, right? And decided to be gangster boys or whatever, and, you know, have their little gang wars and, you know, and yada yada. It's not that they don't have problems, because they do. They got kids that are at high risk, and not everybody is well-to-do off, and but at the same time, though, like, you know, like, too many years I've been working on a nonprofit, too many years, people, and I have yet to see them step up to the plate and make a difference for all, versus being that separatist group under the guise of religion, as if religion is going to protect their politics, to which it does, because, you know, with money comes corruption, with money comes opportunity, right? If you have no money, you don't have very much opportunity, and even if you try and pave a way and try and create opportunity, it's quickly taken away from you because they don't want the competition. So they'll do everything in their power, and that's just not just them in terms of people from India, but, you know, again, if I lived in Richmond with a bunch of Chinese and Mandarin people around me, and, you know, it'd be probably a pretty similar situation, because the mindset itself within the capitalistic society is geared for the me generation, right? Whether they do it as a collective me or as an individual me, right? So anyway, I just feel bad saying, you know, talking out of my mouth, you know how you fork tongue, right? In one way I'm yeah, and then on the other hand, I'm like, hey guys, how you doing? Like, wow, you're playing, good for you. Like, I'm proud of you. Like, go for it. You know, enjoy yourself. You know, right? You know, I'm really pleased to see that you're out there even just trying to make an effort. You know, and being that you've been there all these years, it's about time. You know what I mean? And thanks for reminding me and then remembering me when I was out there trying to do it, just so that it wasn't overtaken by a bunch of freaking weeds, for crying out loud. So, you know, I feel like I have a bit of an alliance with my Punjabi neighbors, who are a band of men for the most part, right? Because, you know, I guess they're working, probably saving a little bit of money over the years so they can buy themselves a house, so people like me can get jealous. I'm just saying, not that I would get jealous, but, you know, everybody walks in their own shoes. My life was different. My what was in front of me and whatever is much more different than whatever is in front of them. And if they can skirt, you know, and establish a family for themselves and be, you know, decent human beings, then why would I resent that, right? But when you're going out of your way to hurt people, and it's apparent that it's happening, under a collective consensus, well, that's different. 100 people, you can't tell me that 100 people are perfectly pure and commit absolutely no sin because they simply can say that they're Punjabi or a Sikh. And when I think of Punjabi, I think of Sikh. When I think of Sikh, I think of Punjabi. And then there's the Hindus and the Tamils or whoever, right? But the predominant in British Columbia, Canada, is the Punjabis, which in my mind are Sikhs, whether they wear turbans or not. The turban is to signify that they're a Sikh. But just because they don't wear a turban doesn't mean that they're not a Sikh. And yeah, they have their own politics within politics within politics. You have some that want everybody sitting on the floor eating with their fingers, or maybe they might have a spoon, but they got to be sitting on the floor, where others want to sit at a table. So it's a big argument within the quote-unquote temple. Have they worked out that argument? I don't know. All I know is they're not perfect, and I don't like it when they try and play themselves off as they're perfect and then call it good business, as they're literally destroying lives, right? With mine right at the top of the freaking list, okay? Because my life should not have been as hard as it has been while living in this house. But I dealt with it so that I would have a house to live in because I took my landlord's word for word in terms of I believed in his word, right? And I did my part. And now that my part is basically done, but I'm not able to make it pristine for the big fish to take the bait so that I could be dropped like a hot potato after it's all said and done, right? You know what I mean? In terms of yard and do this and this and this and this and this and this, and if you can't get the hell out, because even if you do it, we're still going to find a way to get you the hell out, because ultimately at the end of the day, it's all about money. And I live in fear constantly because of that. So why I'm canning what I'm canning, it doesn't make any sense, because for all I know, it could end up in a freaking bin yet. Literally. Right? So, you know, but at the same time though, you know, I'm happy for my neighbors with their little garden, that it took a long time for them to finally plant one. And now that they're planting one, I want them to be successful. I want them to be happy when the food starts to grow and they can feel good about themselves, right? Because ultimately, at the end of the day, I am a nice person. And I don't appreciate being constantly abused by people who are not. But profess that they are, because they can hide under the umbrella of a quote religion or ethnic culture that practices a certain type of religion or speaks a certain type of language, like Punjabi. You know, there's how can I say this? I don't know how to say it. There's a catchy phrase for it. But if you're in the care of something, if you know, it's a responsibility to be in the care of something, to look after it, to nurture it, to want to see it grow and succeed and be prosperous, right? You know what I mean? In terms of, if you want to be the majority, holding the majority vote, holding the majority of the wealth, holding the majority of the assets, holding the majority of the ideology of what's right in society and what's not right, then you put yourself in a position where you have a very big responsibility to take care of what you are leading. And that's not happening. Because if it was, the things that are happening now wouldn't be happening. And have been happening. Do you honestly think that a Punjabi police force is going to be any more different than the RCMP when it comes to illegal organ harvesting? No. No. Do you honestly think that if I went to the police station and filed a report for extortion in terms of what I go through with the housing situation and the intimidation and yada yada and threats and whatever, gang stalking and whatever, do you honestly think they'd care? No. Mm-mm. So where does that leave me and my family in terms of safety? Knowing what I know. Knowing what I know. Knowing who does what and why they do it and how they did it and who protects them. Whether it's at the temple or whether it's in the Parliament building. Right? But that doesn't mean I can't be happy for my neighbors who happen to be Punjabi young men planting a garden after all these years and feeling good about it. Right? Because ultimately, at the end of the day, I don't care what my landlord's got to say about me. I am not a racist person, never been a racist person, but I'm up against a whole lot of freaking racism, and a whole lot of other freaking Canadians are up against the same stupid crap, and they're speaking out about it, and the sooner that the Punjabis, Sikhs, or whatever they want to call themselves, get to the plate and start participating and being a part of the solution versus part of the problem, then maybe things can get better. But if they want to keep being part of the problem and blame everybody else for being dipshits and useless this and useless that, who can't have no right to own this or own that or anything, the only thing that we have a right to is to be slaves and to give up our blood when there's nothing left to give, even after we're bled dry. Yeah. What do you think those perfusion machines are for? When they hook them up on dead bodies and then put those dead bodies in a hammock to cover up the perfusion machines because they're filtering out the blood out of the organs, getting them ready for transplant. That's exactly what's happening. So let's just finish a little bit of this, what she was saying. I don't know if I should put this in with my video. This is not what I wanted to do. I wanted to keep my little canning video short and sweet and try and stay positive at least for one freaking day. But you know I'm shaking in my boots because I'm worrying about what the hell's not being done outside. Huh.
If I have to worry about driving on our streets, our public streets, because you guys, you East Indians, are perverting our drive test centers. That doesn't make me racist. And that's a fucking hill I'll die on. Kill you.
Can someone explain how there's so many Indian drivers in Canada? Because I was working on my family farm, and the Indians come to our farm to talk about dumping off their load. And this one company had a whole bunch of clay they needed to get rid of. So we said, yeah, dump off the clay, we're going to use it. And about 25 of these Indian drivers would be coming to our farm, and out of the 25, only 2 could speak English. Only 2. Now, in Canada, to get a Class 1 license, it is very, very hard to get. And it only comes in 2 languages. It comes in English, and it comes in French. And I know those 25 drivers can barely speak English, and they definitely don't speak French. So how in the hell did they get their Class 1 license?
So this came up on my Instagram feed today. Canada has more Punjabi speakers than any other country outside of India.
Yeah, because they're the ruling class. They're the controlling class. They're the majority. And they're frightening. Thumbs down that one. They're frightening. Is that how they want to go down in history? As being frightening? With no balls?
Now, I bring this...
Can't take criticism? Can't take praise? Even though they don't see it as praise because they want to play the victim card, as if I was picking on Mr. Gill for standing up for trying to end homelessness, even in a small kind of way. He stood for something, but they don't want the public to know about that. Oh, no, 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 because that's not the political agenda. That's not the freaking temple's way of doing things, or whatever controls their thinking when it comes to silencing somebody. Huh?
Want groceries?
No, not yet. Listen, I got that thing is almost ready to start venting. I had to heat it up slow.
Up because what is Canada? What is the definition of Canada? Now, we've been on this channel for the last 15 years trying to figure out is Canada just an idea and that's it? Or what is it?
You can make me one after I'm done canning, because after that I'm resting.
Canada evolving into becoming, right? Now on this channel,
if I eat, I'll crash.
We've been asking the same questions over and over, and we've been telling you guys, Mexico is Mexico because the people that live in Mexico are Mexicans. Argentina is Argentina because the people that live in Argentina are Argentinian. Now, what is Canada? Up until 1993, Canada closed immigration from European expansion. From 300 years back, up until 93, Canada was an expansion for Europeans. Come, build, lay infrastructure, groundwork, sewers, sanitation, electrical, all the foundation was built. 95% of everything around you in Canada is built by Christian hands. Came over, built the place. And then it got prohibitively expensive, purposefully. Chinese came in, laundered trillions of dollars into our real estate, buying up farms, buying up mines, buying up everything, and creating bidding wars and creating artificial shortages. And then 2020 hits. Hey, let's sell people in India a dream. So 5 million Indians come over to Canada after 2020. That's when the big numbers started coming in. Australia, New Zealand, the whole bit. The same thing in every country in the Commonwealth was experiencing the same activity because they sold out the Chinese money laundering first in the trillions, and then the Canadians can't get into their own real estate. And fast forward to now, majority of these people are unhirable. They were given a dream in India to come to Canada. They were lied to. Now they're coming here, and they are just basically taking the country over. Now, this goes back to what makes Canada Canada. It could have been a European expansion if they kept and regulated the borders and asked the people that built the country, do you want these people to come into this country now after you built it, right? The majority of people would have said, no, we don't want these people in our country, right? So what is Canada? Mexico is Mexico because the people living in Mexico are Mexicans. How do we define Canada? If a majority of people over time become Indian from India, does Canada become India? Or Chinese, Indo, you get what I'm saying? Does it become that?
Well, I think it all depends on the ideology, and if you want to be in power, then there comes a huge responsibility with it, and you're either going to advocate for the devil or you're going to advocate for justice. Can't say God because Punjabis don't really believe in God, but they do believe in the devil. Isn't that interesting? Okay, next day, you can see better than me. They all sealed. From what I can tell, well, I can't tell, but I think the head spaces are pretty good. I'd have to put on glasses, and I don't know, my eyes are gooning right now. Anyway, all good. And then there's those jars. I have a vegetable one. You can see what I've done here. Right? Yeah. And then when these things come on sale, whether I get PC points back or they're just straight up on sale, then just top off a little bit, right? And then you're good to go for years, because this never goes bad. Oh yeah, before I end this video, I don't know. I wanted to just keep it simple, right? In terms of something positive, informational, yada yada. But like every day, and it's enough I have to go through that with Amari. And it's enough that I have to go through that with my eyes and just everything else that, I struggle with, right? Because it's not easy, eh? And with them changing now, getting these auras, the blue and the red aura, as I bend down and stand up, and then all of a sudden everything's hazed over with a red haze or a blue haze or whatever, right? Because your brain, eh? So in the meantime, like I am very worried every day in light of, well, basically what the landlord is doing, okay, and has been doing. And, I got this looming, mean, impatient, already on a mission, quote-unquote, overseer, gonna be coming and, introducing himself to me? After his mother and grandmother put the fear in me? Like, think about it, people. Talk about psychological warfare. So, of course I'm thinking about Mr. Gill, right? And I'm thinking about my Uncle Harry coming to me when he died, shaking me, saying, I gotta go. And I'm like, go, go, go. And he left and got the phone call the next day that he died, yada, yada, yada. And my grandmother taking me up to heaven said, look, this is where I'm going to be, but you can't stay, you have to go back. Got a phone call when I woke up in the morning. My grandmother had died. All right. And then, like, I didn't invite myself to that funeral. They wanted me at that funeral. Okay? And they know I do videos. And they know I talk about serious subjects. So it's nothing new. So they can't act surprised. But they want to twist the narrative, just like they used their insurance as an excuse to say that somehow I was being negligent because I had a few things in my yard, when in fact, whatever that they were, it was the stairs, people, that had been broken for over 10 months. That's why they had to get rid of the stairs. That's why my landlady was saying, get everything away from the stairs. What stairs are you talking about? Like, there was hardly Amari's stroller up against the house to protect it from the rain. You know what I mean? And a water drum. Like, what the hell? The stairs were broken for over 10 months. And, like, nobody cared about those damn stairs. Then all of a sudden, it became this big kerfuffle. And they kept taking a picture in that one area with the stairs, right? And they wanted Andre to dismantle them, or Marcaine to dismantle them. They didn't offer to pay or nothing. They just said, tell Marcaine to... First it was Andre, and I said, well, no, Andre can't do that by himself. We'll get Marcaine to do it. Okay, whatever. I ended up paying Marcaine $400 for everything that he helped me out there with, as they were putting me on pressure to do this, do that, whatever. And then when the stairs were gone, of course, they're taking picture, right? Now, don't forget, when with that sewage crap, they were emptying out sewage out the window for like 20 hours, people, okay? Well, not 20 hours, from 11 o'clock in the morning, because it was a 29-hour gig, okay? It was like a freaking setup, I'm telling you, it was a freaking setup. Anyway, they showed up the next day when they should have showed up when they were first called, and that pipe should have been shut off like within less than an hour, considering what was coming up, because even though it was drainage water, and I've already talked to plumbers, like official certified plumbers about this, okay? that water that was coming up through the bottom of the toilet at the seam, with the house water turned off, that right there tells you that is city, no other way. And it was related to the sewage because of the toilet. And even though the sewage didn't come up right away, it didn't matter. It was just a matter of time before it would have came up. You see, that's the thing, because the drainage water can accumulate at the top and then leak, and then eventually the sewage will come because it fills up as people are flushing their toilets, right? Okay, and that's why all of a sudden it just purged, filled up in the bathtub, overflowed, went down the hall, just the whole 9 yards. The point is, that could have all been avoided, okay? And it did. It resulted in a one-day eviction for my son, okay? Because they didn't show up until 11 o'clock the next day, and versus dealing with it like they should have dealt with it the day before, they ended up just sump pumping all that shit that was mopped up and still coming out of the hole for hours and hours and hours. They put the sump pump. It wasn't a sump pump. It was a freaking pond pump. Okay, just a little dinky little pump on the hole with the poo coming up, right? The sewage coming up. And they were sump pumping it out my back window. Okay? So they basically flooded my backyard with sewage. All right? For hours and hours and hours. Okay. So as if I was going to go out there in January and start mucking around when that shit happened in freaking middle of November. But they had to insure the house. So because the stairs were broken, they wasn't, right? Had no rail, nothing. But it was my fault because there was a stroller there. That's why the house wasn't insured, because Amari's stroller was up against the wall to keep it away from the rain. There was a water drum there, and there was stuff under the stairs because the stairs crashed on the stuff, right? And then, of course, you know, my plant got ripped up, my freaking bean pole thing got thrown, you know, and then it was get rid of this, get rid of that, yada yada yada. I'm warning you now, if you don't get it under, you know, it's just exactly with nothing, because, you know, right, that's it, you're out of here, because, you know, this guy that's going to show up very soon, introduce himself, and I'll be like, oh, yeah, right, okay. So, but it's all a setup. So I'm thinking about Mr. Gill, though, right? Because they wanted me to take down the video. Well, I only took down one video, and I'm thinking it was because when I came into that cathedral, okay, with the echoing halls, and I walked up to the table with his picture there, with the orange turban on, and I, you know, right, and then I went and sat down with Andre, and we were just talking, and then that man came and sat down right in front of the camera. Obviously, he had something to say, but of course he could, hey man, you know, I see you got your camera on, and can I say something? You know, he didn't, I'm not going to do that. But either or, it doesn't matter. The point is, you know, I think about that dream. I do. With that Punjabi trying to shake me off the rail. Shake me off the rail, whatever fucking rail, I don't know, it's just rail I was on. He was trying to kill me, people. He wanted me to fall and get seriously injured or die to get rid of me, okay? And he's shaking the rail, and I'm hanging off the rail on the other side, right? And then all of a sudden the dream flipped, and I'm now standing there, and there's this man with an orange turban on. He said, come sit down beside me. We were outside, okay? Maybe it was the backyard for all I know. And there was a chair there next to him. So I sat down, and we're both looking, and we're talking. And he's telling me, you know, I need you to look after 2 places for me. You know, I'm depending on you to do that. You know, you have 2 houses now. That's what he said, 2 houses. And I'm like, right? Like, that's right? You know, like, how am I going to move and run 2 houses kind of thing, right? Okay. And then I woke up. That was Mr. Gill. That was Mr. Gill. Now, he'd been going in and out of the hospital for a while. And maybe he came close to death. And he did his astral travel. And he came and, I don't know. told me to sit down. He saved me. He saved me, really, from that Punjabi that was trying to kill me. And he said, oh, don't, just calm down, don't worry. You know, you got 2 houses, I need you to just look after them. Okay. And then I woke up. All I remember is the orange turban. That's it. Because I didn't look him in the face. Because, right? And like, honest to God, I think his family is jealous. I do. I think his family is jealous that for whatever strange reason, there's that connection, and they don't understand it. Neither do I. I don't understand it either. Outside of, you know, they want me to take down a video because they're accusing me of misrepresenting him to be a warrior because he liked orange. When it right there, it tells you within their religion, orange turbans show leadership and stand up against things that are corrupt and try and be, you know, a warrior to whatever it is, you know. And they don't want to hear that part. No. They want to put themselves right back into some victim position where they can, you know, continue to erode my, confidence, my self-esteem, my self-worth, right? As they're making threat after threat after threat on me because they just want more money and that's it. That's basically what it is. And, it's not that they just didn't want his face with the orange turban on the video. But again, I didn't invite myself there. They invited me. They asked me to go. They told me to go. They gave my son the address. Miss Gill called. He calling for you. He was calling for me. But of course, they're not going to call me and have me go rush because I don't belong. I don't fit in. And that's the part that makes them the separatist group. It's not my fault. That's their fault. Right? So, when I touched him in his coffin, I've been around dead people that have been embalmed. My mother was embalmed. My grandfather was embalmed. Those 2 stand out the most. I've been around enough embalmed dead bodies to know what an embalmed dead body looks like. And when I say Shimei was embalmed on a hospital bed for 9 days, she was. Okay? And I touched her, and she was hard as a rock. When I touched Mr. Gill, I left my hand there almost for a minute. Okay? I don't remember ever touching my mom. I don't ever remember touching my grandfather. So I made a conscious effort to touch Mr. Gill. Okay? And he was hard as a rock like Shimei. The only difference between Shimei and Mr. Gill was, outside of being hard as a rock, was he was cold. Where with Shimei, all of a sudden she got a superbug and everybody had to put on smocks and gloves. So if you did touch her, you weren't feeling exactly what you would have felt if your hand was completely bare. Even though they were icing her down to cool down her body, so to slow down the decomposition. Because even though when a body is embalmed, it will still decompose. Alright. So I don't know why he came to see me and put me in this pickle. Because I kind of feel like I'm in a pickle with it. And pickles aren't necessarily a bad thing. But I'm wondering if his family is jealous. You know, being possessive. Like when the social worker comes, or whoever, even Marcane, it doesn't matter. And Amari sees me talking, Jerome, Tisha's dad. If Tisha's dad comes and we're in here talking or something, Amari, he'll just start fussing because he gets jealous. Yeah. I'll be on the couch, Amari will be on the couch, Aunt Marcane will come in, start talking to us, and all of a sudden Amari just starts yap, 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 and trying to overtalk Marcane. Right? Getting louder than Marcane, just to keep Marcane quiet, because Marcane's trying to talk to me. Like, Murray doesn't, he gets in his little moods. You know, that kind of jealousy, kind of like a very primal, without realizing that you're jealous, because if they hated me that much, if they hate me that much, and they resent me that much, then why have me go to his funeral? If all you were going to do after the fact was sabotage, set me up for failure, work towards destroying my life and my grandkids' lives and everybody else around me as everything falls apart, just so that you can accumulate more wealth, so that you can walk out in society and base your self-esteem on your bank account. Right? And ignore the one that actually stood for something. But that yet say you love him, and you respect him, and you admire him, and you look up to him. Right? When in fact they buried him. They just didn't bury his body, people. You see, that's the thing. They just didn't bury his body. They buried his spirit. Because it was his spirit that came to see me, told me not to worry. It's just to keep chugging and do the best I can and look after what I can. That he was counting on me. It would be interesting to see when that video was made, when I talked about that dream. Because when I have these kind of dreams, I try and talk about it the next day so that we have that timestamp. And I'm like in my mind right now, as I'm thinking about him, right? Because whatever, I'm wondering if he actually maybe died in the hospital and they resuscitated him. Because the last time I spoke to him in person was downstairs. When he came upstairs, he told me, that's it. And I put down, do not resuscitate. Because he was tired of coming close to death, or maybe he did die. And that's when he came to see me. But they resuscitated him. Or maybe he was just left for a little bit and then went back. You know, I really wonder if he was in the hospital at that time. Or was he laying in his own bed and astral traveled in a, you know, right? I'll never know. That's too heebie-jeebie for those kind of people. They don't understand that. Yeah, it would frighten them. It doesn't frighten me, though. So, anyway, I just wanted to say that. I don't know what the point of that was outside of... I think they're being very selfish to hide him away like a dirty secret. Yeah, I do. He deserved better than that. Yeah, and we got a lot of problems in the world and a lot of finger pointing going on right now. And I'm not the only one doing the finger pointing. And I don't like to finger point unless, of course, it directly threatens me and my family. And it cuts my life short and my family's life short. And it takes away all opportunities for anybody and everybody, no matter how hard you work throughout your lifetime, because you just don't fit the criteria of the separatist group that wants to be in control of the country. So I'm sad that I had to put in that other bullcrap in the middle of this video. Okay? Because I did. I just wanted to keep it simple, clean, peaceful, happy, productive, right? You know, safe, right? You know what I mean? Educational. That's really what I only wanted to do. But every day I live in fear. And where does that fear come from? Right? Only so many places. Okay? And I didn't create the greater problem where it infused greed to be the menace, I suppose, in society, where the good die young, even though Mr. Gill was 86 years old, I think, which isn't very young, but he was good, and he got buried 10,000 deep in a tomb that was encased in bedrock with a whole bunch of cement poured over it so nothing could escape. Okay, so I'm like freaking crying here. It's all stress related, that's all it is. End the video on this, for the record. Who died first? My grandfather. They said he was a warlock. That's what they say. He was 77, died in the month of July. Somewhere on a 7. Anyway, he was running with the 7s. And he was embalmed. And then the next person who died was my mother. Yeah, it was my mother who died next. She was embalmed. And then it was Sierra's grandmother, Janice, and she was embalmed. And Troy, Shimei's father, and I, and I don't know, somebody else was there, helped to carry her casket to the crematory after the funeral, but she was embalmed, so that's 3. And then it was my grandmother, that's 4. In terms of me being at the funeral. I don't remember being at my Uncle Harry's funeral, but I'm going to put him on. I'm pretty sure I went to my Uncle Harry's because he was in the vicinity and he came to say goodbye to me. It's just his face being embalmed doesn't stand out, right? So we'll just say my Uncle Harry. And then, of course, Shimei was embalmed. Notice how she runs in on the 6, because what they did was straight up evil. And she was embalmed. And Mr. Gill coming in on a 7. So maybe he's a warlock. We just don't know about it. He didn't tell anybody. He definitely believed in superpowers. And being a warlock isn't necessarily a bad thing if you fight the good fight. I'm just saying. Right? You have to have powers to fight evil. If you have no powers, how are you supposed to fight evil? So Mr. Gill came in on number 7. So within those first 6, at one point in the past, I can't put my finger on it. But I may, well, I did. I just don't know who, because I was afraid to touch a dead body, whether it was embalmed or not. So it would have been in a fleeting moment like that, just fast. So that's why it doesn't stand out in my mind, where Mr. Gill, I made an effort, looked in his face, felt how hard his skin was and how cold it was. Because when I touched Shimei, she was hard like a rock, because she was embalmed. Yeah. And it was a Punjabi who illegally harvested her organs as if she was a fish to be gutted, or a cow, or a pig, or whatever, a chicken, doesn't matter. I'm just saying, okay? I didn't create that system. I don't need the demand for that system. I'm okay with death when my time comes. I just don't like being pushed off the cliff and expected to have nothing when I fall down, in order to be able to grab onto something and maybe save myself and my family as we're all falling. Well, the ones standing up at the top of the mountain or at the top of the cliff or whatever are laughing. Yeah. And saying, good riddance.